When I first arrived in Nigeria, I arrived through ambushes in Nyongo, people being killed right by military barracks and checkpoints. Ezekiel was burned and 50 people killed.
Government has to do something this morning. Something is happening.
Where are we heading to in this country? Where are we heading to?
These attacks are clearly planned. It's not just simply ambushing and killing one people or two people, but when you look at Bark and Ladi, you look at Pokos in the villages when they attacked on Christmas Eve, you have thousands of fighters that attack in unison, countless villages all at the same time.
Her husband was killed in that attack. He couldn't escape from his room and was killed there.
I saw my son is dead, and I saw other people is dead.
Hey, welcome back to the Keystone Project podcast. I'm Charlie, and this is my brother James. And today's episode is not just a conversation, it is a window into a reality many of us will probably never personally experience, but one thing that is shaping the global church in profound ways. So around the world, there are believers who don't just talk about following Jesus, they are risking everything for him. And one of those places that is experiencing that in just the most challenging way right now is Nigeria. And that faith is being tested in fire, a real persecution like we have not experienced maybe before, especially in the United States. And so today, our guest brings both a voice of worship and a voice of witness. Chubie Ujah is a gospel musician, songwriter, producer, and a worship leader from Kogi State, Nigeria. He's the leader behind Extreme Life, a ministry that's impacting lives through powerful, spirit-filled music that blends African sound with global worship. He's also served as a music director, a mentor to rising creatives across Africa, and a leader in the gospel music space through his work with Showgear Records. But beyond the music, he carries something deeper. He brings firsthand perspective from a nation where following Christ can come at a cost, and where the church continues to stand, worship, and advance the kingdom of God in the midst of pressure. So today we're not just talking about music. We're talking about faith under fire. We're talking about the global body of Christ, and we're asking, what can we learn? What can we do about what is going on? We need to engage as the body of Christ. And so let's lean in. And today we just thank you so much, Chubie, for joining us and coming on the podcast. Chubie, actually, one of the things I didn't mention in our introduction was, Chubie, you graduated at the top of our class, back in October 2016, the Keystone Project training. We don't actually have like your grades or anything, but no, Chubie was an excellent student. I got to coach him during that time, and I really enjoyed the perspective that you brought. You were so teachable, and so we really welcome your insight into this, and we're really interested in what's going to come out of this. So
Thank you, Charlie.
so Chubie, I think first and foremost, just before we talk about the persecution broadly, what has been your personal experience as a Christian living in Nigeria? What has that looked like, over the years? And I know that you're not in Nigeria right now, but what was that like for you?
So, growing up, it was almost like most of us, especially from the middle belt, which is where I am from, we have you wouldn't have to look very far to find some kind of a Muslim in the family. My family, for instance, my maternal grandfather who ended up being a minister, was from a Muslim family. And so there's always been that awareness that, okay, there's this other religion. However, the narrative has evolved over the years. When we were growing up, it was more like, oh, we serve the same God. We just serve him in different ways.
Yeah.
So we all just grew up, and sometimes there were even crossovers of ideas that, we did not know, oh, that was from Islam or, stuff like that. But over the years, the divide has widened and they have become emboldened. So it's like there is an unwritten rule that you cannot talk about these people. You cannot go against them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could pay for it with your life. And so for a long time, it was more like, okay, if we don't offend them, we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And so people just tried not to speak about their prophet, not to get in their way. And so on Fridays, for instance, they can block a major road and pray. And everybody, the traffic will stop for that entire period. And I was more like, okay, we don't want to upset them and everything will be fine. But over the last 15, 20 years, that narrative has further evolved now. You don't have to offend them anymore. You can just be in your space, just doing your thing, and you're not safe.
Yeah.
So I have, seen it evolve over time from being a relatively peaceful coexistence to now a place where it's like we really cannot stand each other. And that's where we are right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to kind of clarify, in Islamic countries that they're run, it's the government it's run by an Islamic regime, primarily. They have laws like where if you're not a Muslim, you're fined, right? And they call that like a what do you call
Jizya.
it? Yeah, jizya. And basically, that's their tax. It's a tax, But this is different from that, correct? This is not.
Yes.
This is a something that because Nigeria is not technically an Islamic regime. You know what I mean? Even though there's probably some heavy influence that we might be able to get into. You know what I mean, in the government. But okay, yeah. So just to clarify, that's a little different. What does every day look like though for a believer? Is it I know that the North and the South are probably drastically different, especially right now. But it seems like what you're saying is it's getting closer to not being so different.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Because when you look at the map of Nigeria, you have the northeast, the northwest, then there's the middle belt, which is also called the north central, which is like the largest region in the country.
Yeah.
And then you have the southeast, the southwest, and the south. Now, the southeast, that's where you have more of the Igbo-speaking people.
Yeah.
And there it's mostly Christian. That includes a very large population of Catholics. And then you have people that still subscribe to traditional worship. You have that in the southeast. In the south, you have a mix of cultures, but that's where the oil is. Most of them also are like the southeast, mostly Christians and then traditional worshipers. The southwest, however, you get a very good balance of Christians and Muslims. Now, in the north central, that's where
you're from.
Yes, where I'm from, you get a very good blend as well of Christians and Muslims. Now, traditionally in Nigeria, most of the crises you'd hear about happened in the northeast or the northwest.
Sure.
So it was like mostly far away from, even we heard it on the news and I was like, oh, these people have started again. These people have started again.
Right.
But as I speak to you right now, even the south, the southeast, and the southwestern states, are being overrun by jihadists.
Yeah.
So it's no longer something that, oh, we are hearing from a distance. As I speak to you, every state, there is no state in Nigeria right now that people feel safe
Yeah.
from jihadist attacks. While it might still be more in the northern states, almost the entire, north central or the middle belt is overrun by
Yeah.
Islamists right now. And so, it's like desert encroachment, right? It just keeps
Yep.
going and going and going. And right now it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So, and that's why I said and we need to arise to the fact that this is an invasion.
Yes. Yep.
It's the MO of Islam. That's what they do. And I, basically, they have three steps to the things that they do. When they are in the minority, they integrate very well. They believe in tolerance. When they're in a minority, and there are verses in the Quran. That's the Mecca revelations
Yeah.
of the Quran, which sound a lot more peaceful, like, oh, the Christians are your friends, live peaceably with, and just those peaceful verses
Yeah.
that Muhammad received while he was in Mecca and nobody believed in him. And so those revelations are the ones that Muslims use when they are in the minority. So, for instance, in America, although now they are becoming a lot more emboldened, but, in a place like America, maybe 10, 20 years ago, you hear more things like, oh, Muhammad said Christians are friends and, things like that. And then when their population increases to between 5 to 10%, they begin to get more vocal about their convictions, which we're seeing in the UK, we're seeing in France, we're beginning to see in America, in places like Dearborn and places like Minnesota. We're beginning to see them become more bold about saying things like, oh, we have come to take over, an infidel should not, rule over us and stuff like that. And so for a long time, Nigeria was in that place. But with the jihad of the womb, which a lot of people are not aware of, but there's something called the jihad of the womb, which is basically, giving birth to as many as possible, so their population continues to increase. Even though on paper they say the population in Nigeria is 50-50, the reality on the ground is Christians are still more in number, but the Muslims have always been more politically aware.
Yeah.
They've always, because Islam is a political ideology, so they are always so they make their numbers to seem more than it actually is. So if you see how they speak, for instance, in places like Dearborn or in places like London, you would think that Islam is the dominant religion in those places.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now in Nigeria.
Just to intimidate the so-called minority, even though that they may not be the minority.
Exactly.
What I mean? So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when they get to those places, they switch to the verses that says contend with the disbelievers until they feel themselves subdued. That's the phase we're at right now. Now, the third phase is where they are the majority. And what happens in places like that is they do whatever they like. So if they feel like they need you, they can live peacefully with you, but on their terms. And that is the ultimate goal of Islam.
And
to
that's
get
where
to a
the
place.
jizya tax will come
Exactly.
in. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Where they're like, well, we'll live peacefully, but we're going to tax you
tax.
if you're a different
Exactly.
religion.
Yep.
So.
And in some northern states in Nigeria right now, the only reason why they cannot formally express that is because on paper Nigeria is a secular state. But the way they oppress Christians in a lot of the northern states, you would think that we were living in in a Sharia republic.
Yeah, let's just clarify too. There are some reports that indicate that over 7,000 Christians have been killed in 2025. Over
I believe it's
7,000.
more.
Yeah, it probably is. We don't.
Yeah.
How some of these places that are underdeveloped.
Yeah,
You know how are they going to be able to get all the numbers correct?
exactly.
You know, and so
Open Doors puts
And the press
Nigeria,
always underreports anyway.
yeah.
No, Open Doors ranks Nigeria 7th, the 7th worst country in the world for Christian persecution, and they claim that the organization claims that it accounts for 72% of the total number of Christian killings worldwide, just in 2025 alone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and so it has definitely gotten bad. I even wonder, just more recently, if Nigeria is not higher on the list. You know what I mean? But
Because a lot of the killings don't even make the news anymore.
oh yeah,
yeah, or they get covered up with saying it's a farming dispute, or,
Right.
You know, something
Right. It's a communal clash. It's a
cover
this.
it
They
up
just
with-
look
Yeah.
for every
But so let's talk about like what exactly specifically kind of is happening with these attacks. What is it that we're seeing these terrorists coming and doing? We're hearing about killings and kidnappings and village raids, and people being displaced. But I mean, are there any other details?
Yeah, like how are they doing this, and how is there so little response from
Yeah.
the government in order to curb a lot of these attacks and things like that?
The government is not only weak, it is complicit.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently, and these are all verifiable. The National Security Advisor was on live television saying that terrorists are our brothers,
Yeah.
and it's like we're having a family dispute,
Yeah.
and so we should look to reconcile with them. Now, you're killing us without giving us reason. So on what basis are we reconciling? If it's so, when people are agitating for something, you can understand and say, okay, let's negotiate.
Yeah,
But you're not agitating for anything. You're just
Yeah.
killing people, But all the top guys in the government, military officers, saying things like, oh, they are our clients. They don't even call them terrorists, or say things like, yeah, we are brothers. And then even when they get arrested, they are not prosecuted. They try to rehabilitate them and send them back into the system. Like,
These are not shoplifters.
for God's sake.
Yeah, these are not. We're not. These are people that these are murderers. People that have committed atrocious acts against
And you
humanity.
say they are repentant terrorists. Okay, why don't you? There are people in prison that are remorseful for the crimes they committed. Why don't you release them as well?
Yeah.
Why
for
are
lesser
we
crimes.
rewriting our constitution,
Yeah.
rewriting our laws to accommodate these people?
Yeah.
So you're pretty much telling them, okay, I can do whatever I like.
Yeah.
If push comes to shove, I surrender. I say I have repented. And then they take me through some kind of de-radicalization program. So a nice uniform for me. We have a graduation party, and then I can even join the army. And
Yeah.
right now, a lot of Nigerian soldiers are afraid to go on missions with these people because they know that these guys still have loyalties to the terrorist groups. So even the military right now is so polluted that soldiers that want to do the right thing are afraid because the person standing right next to you could be a sympathizer or a loyalist to the terrorist groups. So the government has created a system where it is almost impossible right now to, so, yeah, that's where we are, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. It's a joke. That's
It's
a
a
joke.
joke.
It really is. The administration there, the government there, for them to, I don't know how else to say it.
And
That's,
I for them to simply say these are ethnic conflicts, or land disputes, farming disputes, like, to boil it all down to that and not recognize the bigger problem. Clearly, I think, based on what you're saying, clearly the military's compromised, the government officials
Absolutely.
are compromised,
Absolutely.
and
On
you
every
wonder
level.
what is going on behind the scenes for them to just simply be, turning their shoulder to all of that.
yeah, I mean,
So-
one of the videos that you sent us that I was watching shows a youth pastor talking to, he's saying that we are hearing these reports, these rumors,
Yeah.
that there's going to be attacks.
Yeah.
And we need you to make sure to curb these attacks, just to make sure that these things don't happen. And nothing was done.
Yeah.
And the attack happened exactly the way they said it was going to. So you see,
Yeah.
this is not just the random stuff. These things are planned, and many times we've seen like so many reports where maybe there's a military patrol stationed, around a particular village, and just maybe like an hour or moments to the attack, the vehicle drives off, leaving the community completely vulnerable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the army, and it's really unfortunate, but the government is complicit, and people are doing it for different reasons. And there are 3 reasons that I can think of, right? Why different people in government are complicit. One are people that are more interested in political power than doing the right thing,
Yeah.
and they are afraid of offending the Muslim population because of the next elections. But the problem is there's always a next election,
Elections aren't going to
2,
stop. There's,
they're not going to stop. 2, there are people that are profiting from this, either through military contracts or
the funeral
people-
parlors,
right.
I mean, like, who? Okay, so the military contracts. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then some of the communities that have been evacuated because of this,
Yeah.
raids have some resources like gold, for instance. And there are people with interests that empower these bandits, clear out the community, and they mine gold illegally. This is a thing in Niger State, in Zamfara State. It's what's happening. And then, of course, the third and obvious one is religion. It's how Islam has always spread.
Yeah. Yep.
Invade, conquer, take over the land, settle there, put an emir, and so that's those that are not jihadists, for instance, are enabling the jihadists because of their own selfish ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we have complicity on the side of the government. So while there are people in the government, including supposed Christians, who are supposed to be very vocal about these things, they are not, because they are trying to protect a selfish interest. There you have it.
Do you have Muslims in Nigeria condemning these attacks?
Rarely.
Rarely.
Yes.
Man.
The so-called moderate Muslims never speak up when things like this happen. I mean, maybe 1 in 1,000.
Okay.
You'll find that odd, post on social media, on Twitter, where a Muslim is saying, "Come on, you guys are not representing Islam."
But
But
you
are,
don't
but are
have-
these in Nigeria, or
Yes.
these are okay? These would be from
Yeah, these are
Nigeria.
Muslims in Nigeria,
Okay.
especially the southern Muslims.
But you don't see Muslims on any kind of mainstream platforms or media condemning any of these attacks.
Never
That's
the prominent
disgusting.
Muslims.
Or
Never
what about
prominent
what about political figures? Or
Even
are
the
your
political
politicians?
figures,
Well, he was
That's
just
the
saying
thing.
some of the political figures are.
Recently, there's this guy, I think he's American, Alex Barbier, who he's a missionary and has been helping rebuild some of the
Yeah.
communities that were destroyed. Some of the prominent Muslims in Nigeria have been clamoring for his arrest or his deportation from Nigeria simply because he's helping those communities and telling the government that Islam promotes violence. And they're saying, oh, you're coming to sow seeds of discord. They are not seeds of discord. They are trees and forests of discord. Like you're
Yeah.
making it look as if we are these nice, united people.
So what he's
and
doing is worse than the
Than
murdering
what-
of what
Exactly.
they're doing. Like, I don't understand how it makes absolutely no sense. It's
Exactly.
not even reasonable.
And when you hear their prominent people talk, they'll say, "Oh, these guys are our children. You know, let the government find a way to appease them or to negotiate with them." That's what they say.
No, you can't
Let
negotiate.
me say something
you
that
cannot
might
negotiate
shock you.
with people like this. Sorry, go.
In this is 2026. Since 2009, there's no known Boko Haram or any extremist criminal that has been executed. Now, Nigeria has the capital punishment. Now, let me tell you how serious our capital law is. Armed robbery is a capital offense. Kidnapping is a capital offense. So if I rob you of $50 and in the process of doing so, I brandish a knife, it's tantamount to armed robbery, and the sentence is death by hanging.
Wow.
That is the law of Nigeria. There are people that have been hanged for
Far less.
way less,
Wow.
just for the fact that they used the weapon when
Even
they
if they
took-
didn't hurt him,
even if they
or-
did
or-
not hurt the
or
person.
anything like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
And
Yes.
you're saying since 2006,
2009.
2009?
No
2009.
Not a
Boko
single-
Haram person has been
has been-
executed, either by hanging or by firing squad. None.
Instead,
What
so
they
it's
do-
chaos. There's no order. It's just chaos.
So if the only time they die is when they die while, during exchange
Yeah.
of fire
Right.
with the military. Otherwise, those that are arrested, every time they are kept in prison, there is a jailbreak. Those that are not arrested and surrender, they are taken to this nice school where they are de-radicalized. And you hear government officials say things like, a repentant Boko Haram member can even run for president. This is a fact. Like, you can verify everything that I am saying.
Wow.
So it's more messed up than...
Yeah.
And I think we're at a point right now where it looks like the only thing that can help us out of this situation is external pressure.
Yep.
And external, not just pressure, external interference.
Yep.
Because as it is right now, I'm being very honest, I am afraid for any Christian that becomes president of Nigeria.
Yeah.
Because they have set up a system where they will make the person's life miserable.
Yeah. If you haven't watched some of the videos, just talking to our viewers here, if you haven't watched some of the videos that, of the things going on in Nigeria, it's real. I know it is very difficult to watch, and I'm not saying you should watch every single video, but I do think to get to get some perspective, seeing some of those videos. Otherwise, in many ways, we become desensitized, and we just kind of it's not reality. Yeah. And I do think that there's the mother. There's a video of the mother holding her child, her dead child who was killed by these terrorists, and she doesn't want to let her child go. She doesn't want her child. She won't. She's in denial that her child is gone. the videos, there's videos of people just being beaten to death. Videos, of people just fleeing their villages. This is the daily reality that of people, of Christians and non-Christians. And we can't just sit here and pretend these things aren't happening.
Yeah,
and that's why this episode is so important. We have to make sure that the church knows, what is going on.
Yeah. And it's the government's handling of this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's shameful. And I hate, like you said, I hate to say it. Sometimes you really do wonder if there is no other way forward other than for some kind of external force to come in and to right things or to set things something straight. And it's embarrassing for any country or any kind of government to come to a place like that where where in order to make something right, somebody else needs to come in and set things straight. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but
and if they succeed with Nigeria, the rest of West Africa is gone.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Ghana is a much smaller prospect for them. Cameroon, Benin, those are much smaller prospects for them. So this is not just about Nigeria at this point.
Yeah, it's true.
About, and
West Africa.
We're talking of over 100 million Christians in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And,
Nigeria is one of the largest churches,
in the world.
The world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know that as Christians, persecution is part of the package, but at the same time, this is something that can be controlled. It's just the people that are charged and mandated with providing security are complicit in, and that's it. We don't trust the government. We don't trust the security apparatus. We don't trust them. We've seen too much.
Yeah.
We've heard too much that it's, you can't really rely on the government to do the right thing. You cannot rely on the government. I'd like to say this: the last Christian president we had, Goodluck Jonathan, it was under his administration that a lot of this, suicide bombings and stuff like that started. That was when Boko Haram had just started, then it was still very localized to a few states, and, we were hearing about these things. And when he realized that there were people in his government that were helping these terrorists, and there were state governors that were helping them, and there were people in the military that were helping them, he reached out to South Africa and got some mercenaries, who had no affiliations. And these guys came in and decimated Boko Haram. But then the Muslims in the north, and that's why when they say, oh, it's not Christian genocide, Muslims are also getting killed, it's nonsense. The Muslims in the north, whenever the Boko Haram fighters were, being decimated, they were the ones shouting, oh, they are killing our brothers. Oh, send them away. They are killing our brothers. They are killing our brothers. So it just, I really don't know. It's such a horrible place to be, because even if someone does come today and begins to take out the terrorists, the Muslims who are claiming that they are also victims will be the ones saying, oh, don't kill our people.
Yeah. It's a mess. And I agree. I think it sounds like external pressure really is going to be probably the thing that helps. And obviously, we're not just talking about other governments, and I think,
nations
coming in, and obviously that I think it could be very helpful. But I think we need to always look at it as a spiritual battle first and foremost.
Oh, absolutely,
yes.
Well, yeah, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and powers of the air, and against the God of this age, Satan himself, who's blinded the eyes of many people. Absolutely. I just think that the world does need to know about these things that are happening in Nigeria, and the world needs to condemn these things. And the government needs to shape up, start defending people, protecting people.
Yeah.
There absolutely needs to be some kind of change at the highest levels of government there, or something.
Or maybe you're looking at the next Venezuela or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
You know,
Seriously.
I think somebody was, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, those that want to do the right thing cannot. And let me say this also. In Nigeria, it is not illegal to bear arms. They are just stricter measures. Okay, so for instance, you can't have a sidearm or a pistol. It has to be a long gun, and it cannot be automatic. So for instance, you can have a shotgun legally. You can get a license to get a shotgun. But communities where they have hunters with Dane guns, you have situations where the military comes in, removes all their weapons,
Yeah.
and maybe a day or two later, there is an attack.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, that
So
sounds pretty organized.
Yeah, we're not
A
even
little too
allowed to defend
convenient.
ourselves.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so let's talk about the church's perspective in Nigeria. Like, how is the church responding within Nigeria itself? You know, you and I. But we actually we did an episode. What was it, last year?
Yeah,
I think it was last year.
about this time last year.
About
yeah.
this time last year, and we were talking about these things last year. These things were happening. We've been talking about Nigeria for a little while.
Yeah.
And we talked about the state of the church there. And so if you want to go back and listen to that episode, I think that would give you some good perspective. We don't have time to go into all of those details. But even since then, what has the state of the church been like? You know what I mean?
It's improved significantly. So the PFN, the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria in Lagos State, which is the largest chapter in the country, the pastor was sharing how they met with some leaders from the north,
Okay.
and they had people share their testimonies. Women share testimonies of how they saw their husbands killed,
Yeah.
how they had their babies killed in their arms, just testimonies. And the pastor was saying hundreds of them, like he could not go through them. And when he was speaking, he was dazed. You could see that
Yeah.
he had not recovered from what he heard. And he all but admitted that they had been living in a bubble
Yeah.
in the South. Like, they're just having a nice time and stuff like that. And yes, they hear about these things, but being in a room with people that went through those experiences, it kind of changed a lot for him. And so the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, the Christian Association of Nigeria, they have been more intentional about trying to help both Christians and missionaries in the North, and trying to just send finances, make sure that they have some of the things they need, help them rebuild churches, help families to rebuild their shelters. So there's been a lot more intentional effort. There were a few ministries that were doing it, but that testimony kind of made so many other ministries aware, like, oh wow, we've not been pulling our weight.
Yeah.
And secondly, they've also been become more vocal about putting pressure on the government,
Mm-hmm.
to do the right thing. At the moment, the chief of defense staff is a Christian man. Like, he's actually a Christian man, but he's also from the north. And he is trying to do the right thing. And there are videos of him circulating. I think yesterday he said, if you find terrorists, kill them. Don't wait for an order. This is your order,
Wow.
But again, we've seen things like this happen before where military chiefs, are really going after the terrorists, and after a while, it's either they set them up and have them removed, or, so we're really praying that God keeps that man, because he is from a community in the north that has suffered firsthand, by the hands of the terrorists. So there's between the time we spoke last year and now, there's a lot more awareness,
Yeah.
and there's a lot more consciousness
Yeah.
about, our brothers and sisters in the north.
Yeah.
I've seen that the last 6-7 months, there's been a lot more, support from the southern churches, and I'm sure they also realizing that, just like Mordecai said to Esther, don't think you're safe,
Yeah.
don't think you're safe. If
Yeah.
this thing hits us, eventually it will hit you. So yeah, I think we're in a more consolidated and united place right now between the northern and the southern churches.
What do you feel like? What do you wish Christians in America understood that maybe we often miss about all of this?
I think it's the same thing that I just said earlier, that Mordecai said to Esther.
Yeah.
It's turn by turn.
Yeah. Like it can happen
Um,
here too.
It can.
It's not
you know,
like we're the safe place that it can never happen to. Yeah. No, it's
So if because at the end of the day, they gain confidence from what they accomplish. You
Yeah.
know, back then in the days of the Ottoman Empire, it was places like Turkey and places like Egypt and Syria, North Africa, Christian countries that were taking over. Now they have invaded Europe.
Hmm.
America is the crown jewel, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, they would love. Yeah.
Make no mistakes
Yeah.
about it. If they succeed in Nigeria, they are already pushing in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not with violence, but they are already pushing in South Africa. They are already pushing in Zambia.
Yeah.
Um, America is. I'm seeing a lot of things in America right now that are, they're making me really concerned.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
When
what
we-
everybody.
Well, I was gonna say, when we do episodes about Islam, we get more backlash than any other topic. We get
Really?
Yeah, we'll get. It's interesting. Some
Yeah.
comment
People
sometimes.
will attack us all the time.
Yeah.
Why is
And
that?
Muslims, not
Oh.
really. It's, you know what I mean. It's mostly just you get Muslims on there trying
Which is
to,
a-
which is
honestly,
great
expected,
because
but-
I get to get on there and share the gospel in the comments. No, it's. You don't want to get. We don't try to get into the comments too much because you just can't. You can't. But there are times where it's just like, I get to share the gospel right now. This is great. This is great. And it's usually I'm sharing the gospel with everyone there instead of just that one person, because I know that one person may completely,
Islam is like that. Is like that parent in Nigeria. I don't know if this ever happened in America, but in Nigeria, while we were growing up, there are times that your parent will give you a whooping,
Yeah.
and you want to cry, and they'll say, "Shh, if you cry,"
Yeah.
like they're beating you, but they're shut up,
Yeah.
And Islam is like that. They do all of these horrible things to you, but you must not say anything about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. Yep.
If you don't want us to talk, stop doing stuff. It's that simple, right?
No, it's true. And we honestly need to. We've been wanting to do an episode where we can specifically talk about Islam and how we need to, here in the United States, but globally, respond to Islam as Christians. How, because I really believe this is not something that's just gonna go away overnight. Like, we have to understand that These are brothers and sisters in our world, and we have to reach them. It's not our enemy. We don't fight against flesh and blood. Again, we need to reach them with the gospel still, and so we've been wanting to do an episode like that. Hopefully, we can do that soon. But just to kind of wrap this up a little bit, like what is the response that the church?
I'm glad you asked.
You know what I mean?
You asked. Yeah. You're not gonna like this.
Okay. Well, just hit us. We can handle this. We're not babies.
The first response is never make a concession to Islam.
Amen.
If you give them a foot, they will take a mile.
Yes. Yep.
Never, ever, ever make a concession. If they're offended, be offended.
Yep.
If you're so offended, then leave. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is the only language the Muslims understand is force. This is not popular, and this is why they have continued to infiltrate Western civilizations and democracies, because we're so civil. We try to do things by the rule. The only language Islam understands, that's how they spread, that's how they live, that's how they die.
Yeah.
It's all about force. It's all about the sword. Everything is about force. And that's the only language they understand. And so we need to be ready to meet force with force.
Yeah.
It's not a very orthodox Christian perspective, but I now understand. For many years, we were made to feel guilty about the Crusades.
Yeah.
But I now understand why the Crusades had to happen.
Yeah.
And Europe would be Muslim today if not for the Crusades. And I am of the opinion that we need the Crusades again. Maybe not in that exact
maybe a spiritual fashion. more of like a spiritual warfare crusade.
Well, I mean, if we can go into warfare that will, spiritual warfare that will give their sheikhs, dreams and visions.
Yeah.
And convert them, because they take dreams and visions very seriously.
Yeah.
They take dreams very seriously. But at the same time, I don't mind what Netanyahu is doing. I really don't. Because that is the only language they understand. And guess what? That is the only person they fear.
Yeah.
That's the only world leader they fear, because he speaks to them in a language they understand, and he does it way better than they do.
Yeah.
So that is the reality. And we will pray, but we need to be prepared to meet force with force if it comes to it. Yeah, that's just it.
Yeah, we definitely need to pray for government leaders, our government authorities all over the world to take action, and you're right, not just to simply condemn these things.
Yes.
But we need to take action, and really put this to rest. And
because go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible says in Romans 13 that the powers and authority do not bear the sword in vain.
That's right.
Right? So we need to pray for our leaders that they will have the courage to use the sword.
Yeah.
When it's time to use the sword.
Yeah.
Because when you're feeding people carrots when you're supposed to be using a big stick. Yeah. That is what gives birth to things like this. I know you are aware of what's happening in the United Kingdom, where the government is protecting rape gangs from being prosecuted.
Yep.
These are the kinds of things that gives birth to.
Yeah. This is real. It's really happening. They're trying to cover it up. It's really happening. And yes, we need to continue to expose these things for what they really are. So definitely.
Yeah. I have no problem with defending the innocent with force whatsoever at all. And I think that that's what is desperately needed in places like Nigeria, even in the UK.
Yeah.
People need to defend these people who are innocently being butchered.
Yeah.
And it's inexcusable that this has been allowed to go on for as long as it has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we definitely, as we're wrapping up the conversation, it's really hard to. We want things to be better. We wish that it was peaceful. We wish that these things were not happening. It's hard to move past and just pretend, like we cannot.
Yeah.
I can't unsee the things I've seen. I can't.
Yeah, it's hard. We do these podcasts and we talk with a number of different people, and it's really cool to get people's testimonies and stories. And we want to talk about the things of the Lord. We want to talk about the Bible and the work of the mission and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it seems like every week or two, something crazy happens in the world.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like the church, there's some kind of persecution happening over here in the world, and we have to talk about it.
Yeah, we have to.
Because I want to remember. I can't, because I have to, and I can't, honestly, I can't forget our brothers and sisters overseas. I know some of these people.
Yeah.
We know these people. We see the videos, we hear the stories, and we're not going to forget them. We are going to remember them. And that's why I feel like we always come back to this topic a lot to talk about it, because
it just won't go away.
It won't go away.
No,
it won't go away.
But you know
what?
what?
Forget.
The church is still standing. The church, God is not finished. The church is not going to fail. I really believe He is raising up people. He's raising up leaders. And we need to continue to pray for God to raise up more leaders, especially in Nigeria. That they would, the type of people that would live completely surrendered, unafraid, bold and courageous, going into the fight, not running from it, and but going in and bringing transformation wherever they go. I know these are hard. This is a hard topic for some people to hear about. Persecution is never a fun topic, but we do, as James is saying, we have to discuss these things. We cannot forget. Our brothers and sisters in Christ, who are going through these things. And so, Chubie, we thank you for just being able to give us some perspective, and share about, some of these things that are going on in Nigeria. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And we're thankful for your friendship and all that you are doing. And if you want to hear some good music, you need to go look up Chubie Ujah, and you need to listen to some good music. Some of my favorite music is African music, by the way. I love African music.
Amazing.
So yeah. But anyways, we just thank you so much for joining us on this podcast episode. Don't forget to pray for the persecuted church today. Pray for the persecuted church. Also, I just so we can encourage the church, if you would commit to praying for the persecuted church, I want you to comment, I am committing to praying for the persecuted church on this episode. Just write that in the comments and leave that there, so that those who maybe are watching this, maybe they're in difficult situations, they can just be encouraged. People are praying for me. So anyways, we just thank you so much for listening. Definitely don't forget to subscribe and like and share this episode, especially with those that will be impacted by it. So thank you, and be blessed in Jesus' name.